After 5 years on the road, Metallica now seemed to be on their way to the very top. But tragedy awaited them. On September 27, 1986, the tour bus they were in crashed on a mountain road in Sweden. Bass player Cliff Burton was killed at the tender age of 24.
That was really intense. I was at the house that morning when we got the call, and we thought it was Kirk because we just heard his mom. She was very upset on the phone, and then she told us it was Cliff, and it hit really hard. Cliff was a great guy. And it affected a lot of people, not just the band, but I mean, he had a lot of tight friends in the Bay Area, and I think him and James were just like, they were like this, and he was really, really affected, and it took him a long time.
To this day, we don't really know why it was that this bus flipped over on its side, and it was this unbelievable stroke of bad luck that Cliff would happen to be sleeping next to a window and be thrown out and crushed by the bus.
Oh, Cliff was the great. I mean, I think if Cliff was still alive, Metallica would be different as people. He's the one that kind of, you could tell how this is, slowly the success started getting to them, and Cliff was the only one that was always kind of keeping them grounded, to where he's like, don't let it get to you. And James looked up to Cliff too. So there was a little bit of a tuggle going on too, because Lars is more of a flashy kind of guy. He's like, oh, the rock star. And Cliff is more pure music, like people's kind of guy, And then there's a tuggle going on, and James is in between. James is, could be pulled either way.
Cliff played a guiding role in Metallica, certainly, on the Puppets album and before. And when that was taken away, it was very much down to Lars and James to decide the direction of the band. And
then it was just the Lars and James team, And Lars always felt, it was that Cliff was in the way. I know he would never admit it, straight out, and it would be a bad thing for him to do so. But it was because James really looked up to Cliff. Cliff was so like, he was just an individual guy, It's like, it didn't matter to him like to where everybody was in the scene and they wore leather, And Cliff was just by himself, and he's like, I don't care, I can listen to this kind of music, but I'm not going to dress like all of you. I just got my own. He wore bell bottoms where the peg, like stretch pants were in, He just wouldn't do, just because something was cool. He just didn't care. He really was into music for the pure love of playing, Where Lars, for example, he was he loves playing, I'm not saying that, but he was in it for success and money and everything else, So Cliff was, it's really a different kind of guy to where you don't meet people like that every day.